Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The state of our town, oh, I'm sorry, wrong speech. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you all for coming this morning. Katie, have we got a quorum here as far as you can tell? Excellent. And I'd therefore like to declare the meeting open. And the most important thing that we all have to do as Americans is let's pledge allegiance to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We've got some other important business this morning. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
I have one minor typo.
Yes, sir.
Not to the agenda, I'm sorry.
Okay.
To the minutes.
Is everybody okay with the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Approving the agenda.
Need a motion.
Yeah. Any second?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Yeah, second.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? All righty. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good. Excellent. So we've got minutes from our December 7th, 2022 Board of Adjustment meeting, and it looks like there's a typo that I might have missed.
Yes, it's item 4, my comment. After the
Or looks like old business, but maybe I missed it. Have I got the right minutes?
No, it's under new business.
Okay.
Pages aren't numbered.
Okay. And where would that be?
Under Hovermail, it says footprint of property to establish a 1,000 square foot with an objection. The word should be objective.
Objective. Okay. Thank you for that. Sorry I missed that. With that modification, are we in a position to approve these minutes? If so, I'd like a motion.
Motion.
Thank you, John.
I second.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Good. We're moving along here. Okay, I believe there is no old business. Chad, would you agree that's correct?
correct.
And so our new business this morning is a variance request from James and Rebecca Spack, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, regarding the potential of locating an accessory structure. And let's open the discussion on that. Chad, would you like to start us?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could, before we get into this, can we swear everybody in that wishes to?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I neglect to do that. And we
If
also
you
have to make sure that nobody has any
conflicts,
conflicts.
yes, sir. So
Okay.
if we can get everybody sworn in, and then you can go over the conflicts of interest.
Okay.
So if you are wishing to speak today, thinking about speaking today, if you would please approach Katie as she will get everybody sworn in.
So you first tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it's all you.
Members of the board, will you please identify whether you have any conflicts of interest that would prohibit you from conducting yourself as one would have hoped?
John Sergio, I do not.
Well, Veronica White, I have no conflicts of interest.
Lawrence Hershop, I have no conflicts.
Bruce Hovermail, I have no conflict.
Greg Jensen, I have no conflict.
Perfect. Thank you all.
Okay. As we get started, I'm going to pass this out and enter it into Exhibit A. And I will be going over this as part of our agenda packet this morning.
Thank you.
Katie, there's your copy for the record. I'll give it, is it SPAC or Spock? Spock. All right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board. Thank you As we get started this morning, I'm going to go over the facts of the case. Applicants James and Rebecca Spock, owner and applicant is requesting the approval of a variance from section 6.06B, subsection B, J1 of the Unified Development Ordinance, also known as the UDO, that limits accessory structures not to be erected forward of the principal structure. Section 6.06BJ1 reads the following: no accessory structure shall be erected in any front yard, required side yard within 15 feet of any right-of-way, within 5 feet of any rear yard line, or not a street line, on reverse corner lots. No accessory building or any other accessory structure shall extend beyond the front of the lot line to the rear. The applicant is requesting a variance from this section to build an accessory structure forward of the principal structure. When we look at heritage tree provisions, there is provisions in the UDO that addresses heritage trees, such as how you are to propose to remove them, how they're protected, what needs to be done to put them back as a replacement of one-to-one. I think it's important to go over the non-conforming situation. So I want to reference the table of uses chart that I proposed to you, first and foremost. And the second page after that, you will see that in the MR2 zoning district that this property is zoned, accessory structures to residential uses are permitted by right with standards. Part of that standard is that I missed to put in this report, and I am administrating this into this hearing, is that in section 7.2 it states for accessory structures, the combined square footage of an accessory structure shall not exceed 10% of the lot area. And you down at the bottom, you can see I've done some math, acres to square feet. So 0.77 acres that this property is located in size is 33,541.2 square feet. 10% of 33,541.2 square feet is 3,354.12 square feet. So the 1,500 square foot accessory structure that the applicant is proposing forward does fall within the standards of the ordinance. I think that's important. I wanted to clarify that. Non-conforming structures. The principal structures, as continued, is non-conforming. You will see that in the site plan that I have provided for you, that along the right side of this site plan, if you're looking at the house, it would be the left side, that there is a 10-foot setback that is required per the UDO. You can see down that side where the house is definitely encroaching into that setback. This would be required as a legal non-conforming structure. It is allowed to be there. Town would not seek after the applicant to correct that. That's how it was built. It was built in 1969. I don't know what the rules and regulations were for Sunset Beach in 1969. They very much could have been different before the adoption of this UDO in 2012. So, with that being said, that the expansion or anything like that of the principal structure could not be done in any way. So you cannot expand a nonconformity. However, erecting an accessory structure on a lot is not considered expanding the nonconformity. I also wanted to make that clear. You also have the variance standards that are laid out to you in the application, but also in the staff report. I do want to bring to light that I do have a couple of recommended conditions if we get to this point. And it reads as follows: upon consideration of the variance, staff requests the recommendation of the tree in front of the property and in question cannot be removed unless damaged by fire, act of God, or dies. If damaged or destroyed by fire, act of God, then a heritage tree would need to be planted to replace it in accordance with Appendix C. The other condition that I think needs to be considered upon the consideration of this variance, staff requests and recommends that the structure meet the front yard required setbacks for a principal structure, if we get to that, which would be a front yard, 50 front yard setback, 10% of the lot width, so 10 feet from the side, and then it would be 25 feet from the rear, but we're looking forward to the principal structure. Is there any questions that you have for me? The applicant is here. They can, there's any questions for me, I can address them. Also, if you have any questions and wish to hear from the applicant, they are here as well.
Chad, I'd like to raise the question regarding the UDO requirement that an accessory structure not be placed in front of a principal structure. Can you explain, for the benefit of all of us, why that's in there and what it protects?
Why it's in there, I cannot really answer. Just about every UDO that I've worked with from this municipality to other municipalities have had this provision in there, to where you don't have accessory structures forward of the property. I am sure there are UDOs that do allow accessory structures forward of the property. It's just that it is written in our Unified Development Ordinance that it does not allow accessory structures forward of the property. Why, I cannot really answer, for the simple reason that when this ordinance was adopted, I don't know what went into the consideration of that as it was adopted and as it was written. That
Okay.
helped.
I have to tell you that I did some research.
Yes, sir.
I was unable to find any other place in North Carolina. Obviously, I didn't try all 100 counties, but I found no other county that allowed an accessory structure in the front. And as best I can speculate, it has something to do with the consistency of the view from the street and the overall harmony of the frontage of the various properties. So I don't know if Wes is available, if he could confirm or deny that, but I believe it has something to do with the aesthetics, and I'm sorry that you couldn't confirm that.
I have a question as well.
Yes.
Do we have any precedents in the town of Sunset Beach where we have accessory structures in the front or on the side of the principal building?
I would have to research that as we look into stating facts in this. I can't think of any offhand, but that don't mean they don't exist. I would definitely have to, that would be something I would have to look at providing to you after researching that further to bring you 100% clarification on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
John?
Just comments. In your appendix A definition, page 8, accessory use, the use customarily incidental and subordinate is not in the topic.
Oh.
Incidental
okay.
and subordinate to the principal use. Say what? Principal use of the building. Page 818 definition, garage, private. Building used as an accessory to or part of the main building. Permitted in any residential district and providing for the storage of motor vehicles and in which no business occupation or service for profit is in any way conducted. So in the application, it was said it was for pickup trucks and a boat.
So is your question regarding the ultimate use? I think this is not a commercially zoned district, and as best I can determine, the Spoks have not indicated any intention to use this for commercial purposes.
Just a point of order. It's
Yes.
no business can be conducted
Correct.
out with this accessory building.
Thank you for that.
Okay. I have some further questions though, if you want to
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm just wondering at this point if it might be helpful to have the Spocks present their case, and perhaps they will answer some of the questions that we have if there's nothing urgent right now. Chad, would that suit your purposes?
Up to the board.
I think we've all read this carefully. We all understand the issues, and I think it would be very helpful to hear from the Spocks in terms of their position and why they've come to request this variance. So with that, I'd invite you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for hearing our request for variance. My name's Rebecca Spock, and my husband James will be helping me as well. So today we're here to request the variance to build this accessory structure, which is a 30 by 50 garage. It's in front of our home at 212 Shoreline Drive East. Our home, as Chad mentioned, was built in 1969. The garage was built in 1984, and there's a shed that's attached to that garage that was, it was built in 1994. So the home, as we purchased it, was in its as-in condition. One of the things that really attracted us to this property are the trees and the vegetation, just the treasured view of the waterway. Our home is built and located almost 200 feet off of Shoreline Drive East, so it sits at the rear of the property, and it's a large-sized lot. So dimensions, it's 100 foot wide, it's 387 feet long, and it's about 0.77 acres. So it's a good-sized lot. With our understanding of what Chad has covered this morning, that the principal structure is legally non-conforming, we understand that we're not able to attach a garage to our home. So we evaluated optimal places on the property to build the garage, and it's our position as we went through this evaluation, and I want to share this thought process with you, is that building a garage in the rear of the property is not really an option. And I want to explain the factors that went into our decision making process about that. First of all, some of the information that we submitted in our application, there are 3 flood zones in the rear of the property. The home actually sits in flood zone X. And then right at the back of the garage, there's flood zone AE and then flood zone VE. So the whole rear property is basically in a flood zone. Just wanted to mention in Hurricane Ian, we did experience flooding. As you've maybe looked at some of the pictures, we have a number of pine trees that are in the back. The water came all the way up to those pine trees, and we actually had whitecaps in that area. That's how bad, of course, this storm surge was, as well as the wind. The other thing that's there in the rear of the property, the existing contour and topography there is what I would call a knoll, excuse me. So there's a hill there, and essentially our concern is by trying to build a structure there that could potentially lead to soil erosion. There's a lot of trees and vegetation that are holding that whole area together. It's not currently eroding, but that would be a concern if we were to disturb that potentially, and that it could lead to runoff issues. The other concern that we have in the rear is that as you look at our site plan, and this was mentioned earlier, we only have 3 feet on the east side of the home. On the west side of the home, there's about 17 feet, but that's measuring it exactly from the house to the edge of the property line. In that area, we have our HVAC system as well as our sewer grinders in that area, and we've landscaped that area as well. We have curbscaping, and there really is no access to drive our trucks back there. We essentially can get a mower back there through our gate, so it's a very narrow area. So that's a concern too in terms of access. So the other thing, as I kind of opened up here, it would really negatively affect our use of the property if we were to put this garage in the rear. We have the treasured view of the Intercoastal Waterway, which we very much enjoy. So from an aesthetic perspective, as well as our pleasure of using the property, and really our greatest interest is that we do have 2 large live oak heritage trees in the backyard. One is positioned right behind the garage, and one is on the other side of the property near the fence. So these trees are very large. One is 20 inches, one is 38 inches in diameter. We did have a certified arborist come in and assess the trees. So our concern is that if we were to, have to build the garage or consider that to build it in the back, that we would have to cut those trees down. And there are also loblolly pines in the back as well. There are 9 of those trees. So due to all these factors, we really have determined that the most optimal place to build our garage would be in the front. And if we were to receive approval for the variance, we would meet the 50-foot setback off of Shoreline Drive because there is a lot of area in the front there. We also have an existing cleared area where there are no trees there, so there would be minimal impact to the vegetation in that area, and we would be able to build the structure there. Again, our other concern is there's a very large, again, a heritage live oak tree in the front yard, and we submitted some pictures so you could see that as well. It's a 38-inch diameter tree. It spreads almost 90 feet, its crown across the front of the property. So it's truly just a treasure from that perspective. And really our goal is to, build a structure that we can protect our assets, our trucks, our boat, typical things that you would find in a garage. It is only for personal use. We are very limited on space. And ultimately, this plan, it really meets our goal of preserving the trees, preserving the native vegetation that exists there. We feel like this adds not just to our property and our use, but also to the neighborhood and the community. And I put this in my application, and we're very passionate about it, but trees and vegetation and native plants are very beneficial to pollinators. They're great for wildlife, and we really want to create an environment that, coexists with what we have in this area. As well as the structure that we would plan to build. We would do it in such a way that it would complement the neighborhood, it would meet all the building standards, and we understand that this is an additional building. However, we would landscape it attractively, and it would provide our family the safety and security of having a structure that we could put our assets in.
Chad, I presume that we can ask Ms. Bach some questions here.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to start. Where are these assets that are going to go into the garage currently stored?
They're currently in this cleared area, sitting outside. Our 2 trucks are. Our boat, we have at a storage facility, so we're paying additional money to store it off-site. Because we have so many trees, get a lot of debris on the boat, and at the storage facility, it's just parked outside. So it helps with all the cleaning of that boat. So
Okay.
the other things, we do have that small existing garage. We have some things in there, as well as we are having to rent a storage unit for the rest of our belongings. And we've had to do that for several years.
And you have a breezeway there as well, right?
We do.
Assuming I read that picture correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Have you experienced any instances of theft or damage to your property when it's stored outside without a garage?
Not theft, damage during the hurricane. It wasn't our specific property, but my parents were visiting, and a tree fell on their van and it ended up being totaled. So yeah, we've experienced that type of, tree damage. It was actually the neighbor's tree. Just normal wear and tear of environmental conditions down here and are tough on whether we have a trailer sitting outside or our trucks. So it from our perspective, it would be best to, have a place that we could park them and have them safe, secure, and out of the elements of the environment.
And have you engaged contractors or other people to determine the feasibility of building the garage in the back as the UDO would normally require?
So yes, we have engaged a contractor, and we walked the property with them. We talked about all the various options, and as such, as I kind of walked through our thought process, we made the decision to come and request the variance.
And
He was actually going to be here today, and he got stuck in an accident up in Southport. So
Sorry to hear that.
he wasn't in the accident. He was just stuck in traffic.
Oh.
So,
I'm sorry.
yes, thank you.
When you met with that contractor, did they discuss with you the possibility of reutilizing the footprint of your existing structure to modify the garage and the breezeway to provide for the storage that you're seeking?
So we did talk about that, and just openly, this home was built in 1969. It's a 2-bedroom home, quite small. So future plans for our family are that we would like to put a master suite in that area. So also just because of the space in this area, to get 2 trucks and a boat and typical, items that you would store, there's just not enough room to put it in that area.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
John, any questions?
No question.
Veronica?
No questions.
None.
Bowman?
Yes. On the tree survey,
Yes.
attachment B at the bottom shows the condition of the live oaks. The 2 in the back of the property is in fair condition,
Yes.
which might be the saltwater intrusion or salt driven by the wind. The live oak in the front is in good condition. But when I was looking at your engineering survey, they have 4 live oaks. Possibly it's just a mislabeling,
You just
but towards the front of your structure, if you look at it to the left, there's live oak, and then back towards the house, it has another live oak.
Oh,
So
yeah,
are
these
there
guys.
4 live oak, 2 live oaks in the front?
So there are actually more trees than we've displayed here, and the reason we didn't put them all on the site plan is because those that wouldn't be affected or
Oh, wait a
be
minute.
called into question, we didn't put those additional. So that live oak that is in the front,
Mm-hmm,
would be in front of the proposed structure.
right.
It's in good health. It's not going to interfere with the construction of the garage. So we didn't call it out, I guess. We really wanted to call out those that we were most concerned about losing, and we have no intention to cut that live oak down either.
Right. The one closest to the house is labeled 20 feet away. Would you estimate how far the live oak towards the front of the road is from the proposed structure?
So are you talking just directly from like that corner to the tree, or is that what
Exactly,
you're asking,
yes,
your question?
yes.
Okay.
Roughly, I'm not,
Sure. I mean, I would roughly say 20 feet.
okay.
Would you agree, Jim?
I would say between 20 and 30 feet.
Okay. I agree with everything that you said about the trees. My only concern is that 50-foot, obviously it'll be a concrete pad. Is that going to be overlaying any of the root structure of those 2 live oak trees?
It will not. So it's basically when we look to position it, we were looking to stay kind of outside of the drip line of the crown of those trees. Oaks have tap roots, and however, there are fibrous roots as well.
Mhm.
And so we're very cognizant of, many people look at the crown and just protect that. We have to protect what's underground as well.
Mhm.
So, we're very aware of where, if we're to put concrete in there, a pad would end in a place where, we would not anticipate damage to the tree.
Chad, did we get any feedback from neighbors?
Yeah, I got 2 phone calls, both on, one was adjacent to obviously adjacent to the property. One of them was a direct neighbor. The other one, I don't remember exactly where they were. However, there was no objection to this. They were more calling for information on why they got the letter, what's this about, type thing.
Okay, Any other questions regarding this proposal? I have, I guess, just one other question for you.
Okay.
You noticed that there is a slope down, which would be normal toward the ICW, which you believe makes that an erosion potential. Have you examined the possibility, particularly since you're in a flood zone, of the ability to bring in fill to level out that area with proper drainage controls, and therefore raise the structure so that it would not incur quite the issue with the flood zone?
Would you like to?
Yes, sir. We did consider that, and it's not something that we feel that we could do, only because the access back in there, we would end up losing one of these heritage trees, if not both, to make that fill high enough to put a structure on. It just, we would have to go so far out, and you can imagine a pickup truck and a boat, the length of that, we would have to put it right up against the FEMA line where you cannot build anymore, if not more, to be able to navigate any trailer and a truck to be stored in that building.
So thank you for that. If I'm reading the site plan correctly, and by your estimation, there's a 17-foot between your property line and the existing structure?
Yes, sir.
Right. So it would theoretically be possible. I understand that live oak would be obviously have to be removed, but it's quite possible that you could traverse that area with a vehicle such as a boat or a truck. How large is this boat?
It's 21 foot, sir.
Okay. So, and I understand what you're saying about you're going to need a turning radius and the like. Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Chad, I believe it's appropriate for us to close public comment at this point.
If that's the pleasure of the board, yes, sir.
Ladies and gents.
Katie, do we need a motion to close the hearing?
I move to close.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we have a request here from local citizens who are asking for variance out of our UDO. They've given us some very good reasons why their current situation may make a variance appropriate. And at this point, I'd like to call on the board members to determine their observations and I guess give a preliminary indication of what their thoughts are. And Greg, may I start with you?
Sure. I'm just concerned about the size of this building. I'm wondering if it could be reduced somewhat. Again, I understood about the tree and but I have a concern of a 50 by 30 foot, and whether or not a possible one vehicle could fit on the outside, on the left side of the house, and this could be squeezed down a little bit more to still accommodate two vehicles. That's my concern.
Chris?
A similar concern. The size of the structure relative to what's in the community seems quite large.
We do as a board have an obligation to protect the harmony of the surrounding area. John?
No, I understand the hardship, without a doubt. Good point on the size. I mean, I understand. I don't really have any other concerns.
Veronica?
I'm concerned about the size of the garage, given the community. You know, all of the properties are set back in that area. You know, I'm just wondering if it would, you know, you're saying that it's going to be attractive and it's going to be landscaped attractively. But, you know, I'm still wondering if, you know, it could be considered an eyesore. You know, given that we're looking at a structure that's 1,500 square feet with 3 large garage doors on the side, you know, 9 feet wide. And I understand why, you know, they need to be 9 feet wide with your pickup trucks and your boat. We used to store a boat in a garage too. It's a pain. But I am concerned about the aesthetics of the building.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I normally do not do this, but I need to interject here. All right, and the reason why is that this proposed accessory structure, and as we look at making decisions based on the facts of the case, this accessory structure proposed on the property, wherever it would be, the rear yard, for example, would conform with the current UDO. So if they were to put this in the rear of the property, staff would have no reason to deny this because it does come within the 10% of this. Now, if that's one of your bases is for approving or denying this variance, I would need to make sure that that is legal reasonable bounds to do that. That way, you know, there is an appeal process to this hearing, and it goes straight to a court decision to make sure that this board followed all the legalities when it comes to that, and then awards that this board did or did not follow that, and could reverse something. So keeping the town legal, keeping this board legal. I know we do not have legal representation, but if the size of the building I know is potentially a concern for y'all, however, it is within the guidelines of how the UDO is laid out current. If that's one of the things that you need further clarification from a legal perspective on this, I can get that for you. Obviously, it will not be today, but I did want to interject and say that to make sure we are working within the reasonable bounds of legality for this hearing.
And I appreciate you having provided this document, which shows that the proposed garage, even though I agree with you, Veronica, it is out of character from the local neighborhood. It does, at 1,500 square feet,
Fall in the guidelines.
comply with our requirements. And the size of the garage itself would not, in my estimation, reason for us not to rationally consider granting a variance. I personally am concerned about the alleged hardship here. These people have an existing garage, they have an existing breezeway, and I understand their reasons for wanting to preserve that building footprint for future use. But it seems to me that the hardship here is created by the fact that they bought a non-conforming property and knew that putting a garage in the front would not be allowed under the UDO. They purchased it in 2018. Our UDO was proffered in 2012, so we knew this going in. And I understand, you know, that they have vehicles and a boat that they would like to be able to store there, and I have no desire to keep them from doing that, but I think that we have an obligation to follow the UDO unless there is an unnecessary hardship that they didn't create themselves. They have actually lived there now for almost 5 years. And, you know, I think personally, my observation is that they've they have pursued this and stated all their rationale, but the hardship that's created is actually because of what they bought, knowing that they could not, within our UDO, pursue a garage in the front, and the fact that, they're fortunate enough to have these trucks and boats. I think that they have looked at the possibility of building a garage in the back. I do not know whether they've looked into putting a carport or some other structure back there that would be more resilient to any potential flooding or issues like that. Chad, arguably, if they were to come to you with a proposal to put a garage there, and I understand that we would be sacrificing a single large oak, live oak tree in the back, is it possible that a building permit could be granted for a garage back there
In the rear.
in the rear?
So there are provisions to remove heritage trees for property owners, especially single family. You do not have to pull a permit for a tree removal unless it's a heritage tree if you are for a single family home. There are standards for the heritage tree that have to be planted back like 1 for 1. So if you remove a heritage tree, you would have to plant back a heritage tree according to Appendix C in the Unified Development Ordinance. If the applicant could submit a site plan demonstrating that it meets the setback, accessory structure setbacks for a rear yard and flood zone potentially standards and or CAMA regulations, because they are on the Intercoastal Waterway or ICW, staff would have no reason to deny a permit. Also, according with that, would be building, because of the size, it would trigger building permit, just a zoning permit. So if they could meet building code, state building code qualifications, standards, and meet potentially flood zone, zoning, and CAMA regulations, staff would have no reason to legally deny a permit.
Okay. Our rules and requirements talk about if we were to grant a variance, having the end use of the property be compatible as practical with the surrounding properties, which means some level of harmony. And there are clearly homes with garages there. They have a garage right now. So I don't believe that that would be the basis for us not considering this. It's sort of like a basketball game. People score points on both sides, and eventually you have to come to a decision as to whether, who's successful and who is not. Before we call the question here, I'd just like to make sure that the other members of the board have a chance to suggest any other comments that they think may be relative to our final determination. John, let me start with you.
No, sir.
Veronica?
No.
No.
Chris? Great. Okay. Well, then I would like to get an initial poll. Am I correct, Chad, that for us to grant this variance, we would need to have 4 of the 5 members voting in the affirmative? And in the absence of that, the variance could either be denied or it could be tabled until there is further information provided?
Yeah, you could deny it, approve it, or table it and be more specific on what you would like, why you're tabling it, and what you're requesting from the applicant or staff to bring back to you to further make a decision. So those would be the options.
Great, thank you.
You could also approve it with conditions.
Right, and
as
you've
well.
provided 2 very good conditions in your report regarding the live oak.
But also not limited to those, just
Right,
to
right. I understand
conditions as
that
well.
that would be the start of it. Greg, let me give you the floor first.
I think the building's too large for the area. And again, I'm concerned of the concrete pad on the live oak trees that are there. And I possibly like to recommend tabling this to see if we can get some further information from the applicants as to, is there more opportunities on the left-hand side? Or at least maybe put one garage there so that we could eventually look at a smaller structure rather than 50 by 30.
Okay, thank you. Bruce?
I'm just concerned with the hardship aspect of this. While I firmly agree that saving the live oaks, there is a solution now to the parking problem. There is a 2-car garage. The boat is in storage, so it's safely away. I just don't see the need to obstruct the harmony of the neighborhood by building this structure in front of the residence. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you. Veronica?
I agree with Bruce that building the structure in the front of the property is not compatible with the rest of the neighborhood. And while I can certainly appreciate why the applicant wants to build this garage, they bought the property 5 years ago. You know, and they, you know, probably knew that this was going to, you know, be an issue. So I would be inclined to deny the variance.
John?
I just think that getting around the house is what's going to create the hardship. If you look at the setbacks from either side of the house, if it was your house, I don't think you could actually drive around it. I mean, like, take the boat out, take all the toys out, whatever you got. And then are you going to destroy the back for a garage from the waterway? Or based on the depth of the lot, could you reasonably put something in per the UDO and for what Chad provided? It seems like it fits the footprint. So I'm probably on the other side. I'll probably, you know, I understand the aesthetics and the size of the garage and all those things, but it fits. I'm probably on the other side of this argument. I probably would approve it. So just letting you know.
Well, that's okay. That's the reason we have 5 members on the board. I mean, you know, people, once again, there are very good reasons that these folks have provided why they might get a variance. And on the other side, once again, I caution you, Greg, the size of the garage, while it is inconsistent with the neighborhood, in and of itself would comply with the requirements of the UDO. And so as much as we personally may feel that it is out of character, you know, for a lot with a small house, it would be legal if we were to grant the variance. You know, I think you can tell by my comments, I feel for these people. They have a beautiful piece of property. I've been there. I understand they have a very legitimate desire to protect their assets. But I believe that the hardship that is created here is one that they have created by the assets that they have that they're trying to fit in this garage. And the limitations on the property that they knew when they purchased the property. I understand that, you know, trees falling down and all that are a hazard. Obviously, they've been through some floods, and you know, even putting a carport in the back, you know, would provide some limited protection from the sun, but it isn't going to protect them from vandalism or theft of the like. But where I'm coming out on this is I don't feel that there is the weight of evidence to allow violation of the UDO by granting a variance. And once again, Chad, the board could probably benefit from any other observations you may have, or you may stay silent if you wish.
It's a decision up to the board. I have no vote on this. So.
Right. No, I understand you have no vote. You know, we've come to very much respect your capabilities, and I appreciate, you know, the job you've done assembling all this. I don't think this is an easy decision by any respect, but I think that, as Greg pointed out, there are potentially alternatives here that would avoid having to place this garage in front of the house. And I believe that the drafters of the UDO had some things in mind when they prohibited placing a structure in front of the primary residence. So with that, I would like to call the question regarding granting the variance as requested by the Spocks. And let me get the votes, of everybody. Does everybody agree with my motion to call the question?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So in terms of granting the variance as requested by the Spocks, Greg, your vote?
No.
No?
No.
Bruce? No?
No.
No?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you. I mean, there's room in this world for difference of opinion. Unfortunately for the Spocks, my vote is also no. And I believe that we have rejected this. We certainly wish the Spocks well with trying to find an alternative, but I don't believe that we can justify this variance as requested. Okay. Are there any other issues that we need to cover? Okay. With that, I motion to adjourn this hearing.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.